Let me share with you the story of Morgan, a bright soul overflowing with dreams, who found herself mired in repeated letdowns. Each day, she rose at dawn, determined that this time she'd finally see a change, yet every door slammed shut. She devoured motivational books, tried a dozen techniques, listened to every self-improvement guru, only to circle back to frustration. Late into the night, she'd stare at her ceiling, wondering why her life wasn't reflecting the things she asked for. In her mind, she was doing everything right. Visualizing, affirming, holding a cheerful face. But no real shift occurred, and with each disappointment, a sense of powerlessness gripped her tighter until she felt she was wandering a vast desert, searching for a faint promise of water. Then one evening, Morgan overheard a conversation that changed everything. Two acquaintances were talking about certain elites, major figures in business, politics, and entertainment, who shaped events around them as if by magic. They whispered that it was almost like a secret method existed. These elites, it seemed, had discovered a hidden key to manifesting outcomes without breaking a sweat. Morgan's heart raced at the thought. Could it be luck, connections, or was there a deeper power at work? She began investigating. She found obscure quotes, read about visionaries who insisted they felt success before it arrived, and discovered recollections of powerful individuals who seemed to walk into any setting expecting victory. To Morgan, it sounded like the manifestation techniques she'd already tried, except these people projected an unyielding certainty, something almost forceful. Determined to learn more, she dove into studying every scrap of insight. She sensed that the difference between wishful thinking and real manifestation was an intangible conviction that too many teachings glossed over. It wasn't enough to want or imagine. One had to assume a kind of inner authority that let no doubt creep in. Morgan vowed she'd uncover that missing piece. That's exactly what brings us here, the art of forcing your manifestation into being, much the way powerful individuals seem to do. For ages, we've heard we simply need to ask, believe, receive. Yet so often we ask politely and see no door open. We might feel that something's missing. Because honestly, is there anything more frustrating than knowing about the power of creation, yet feeling stuck on the sidelines, while others appear to breeze right to the finish line? The significance of what we're about to explore is immense. You see, the capacity to reshape your world from within transforms more than your relationships, your projects, or your bank balance. It changes how you engage with life at every level. It ushers in a deep understanding that your vision is not just a hopeful dream, but a reality poised to surface. That realization propels you beyond mere wishing. You shift something fundamental inside yourself, and your external circumstances begin to comply. This is the secret of those elusive elites. They don't tiptoe around, wondering if they'll succeed. They inhabit a state of already having won, and life responds to that signal. At first, calling it forcing manifestation might sound like pushing or straining, but in truth, forcing involves commanding your inner world so decisively that everything outside aligns. It's akin to living in the end. You let go of your role as a hopeful seeker and instead claim the perspective of someone who has already achieved what they desire. If you're envisioning a new venture, a different job, or an inspired breakthrough, you stop bowing to the current facts. You stand in the conviction that it's done. That might feel unnatural at first, because your senses will point to evidence of the opposite. Yet it's in that tension you discover what true creation is, holding firm in your chosen state, regardless of what the mirror of reality shows you right now. Morgan learned that each time she repeated, "I am successful, I am thriving," a small whisper inside contradicted her. "No, you're not. Look at your life." That led her to a realization. The shift required isn't just about words or fleeting images. It's a wholehearted assumption of the end state. She stopped merely reciting statements and began immersing herself in the feeling, seeing her reflection in the mirror as a person who had crossed the finish line. She engaged her senses. What would she hear from friends? How would she stand? How would she think? And allowed that vivid experience to sink in. That's when changes began. She saw that the difference between half-hearted affirmations and real conviction was everything. You might be asking, how can I stay confident when life keeps giving me reasons to doubt? The trick is understanding that your outer world lags behind your inner reality. The conditions you see now sprang from older assumptions, and if you keep feeding them energy by reacting to them, they remain in place. Once you recognize this, you realize you need to shift your attention from external facts to the new truth you're creating within. The mirror cannot help but follow your lead. Another puzzle piece is that people aren't taught to believe in imagination as anything but a pastime. We learn to see ourselves as victims of chance or social forces. Yet observe the ones who achieve monumental success. They might be labeled as arrogant, but at their core is an unshakable faith in their own vision. They nurture that faith until it shapes reality around them. That is the essence of forcing, and it's not the same as brute forcing. It's about refusing to entertain any outcome other than the one you've chosen. Of course, you'll still take action, make decisions, and put in effort. But notice how those actions feel once your self-concept is already in place. You sense an ease, a calm presence. You're no longer searching for proof. You embody the proof. Other people are drawn to your steadiness, your clarity. Opportunities that used to slip by catch your eye because your awareness is now primed to receive them. You're no longer locked in a cycle of, is it working yet? Morgan did struggle to maintain this state at first. She'd hold the feeling for a day, maybe two, and then slip back into worry. But each time she caught herself doubting, she gently realigned, reminding herself that every moment spent in her chosen assumption was a seed taking root in the subconscious. As she persisted, her new state felt more natural. Then she'd notice small shifts in her outer world, tiny synchronicities, helpful connections, chance encounters that hinted at bigger changes waiting around the corner. She realized that was how the elites lived every day. They did not rely on the visible world to reinforce their goals. They let their goals reshape what was visible. You might wonder why this isn't taught more widely. The answer is partly because many teachings reduce manifestation to a few quick techniques, ignoring the depth of your inner environment. People are told to visualize or say affirmations, but never truly learn to command that unwavering inner stance. And if you don't cultivate that stance, doubt creeps in the moment you see a hint of contradiction in the outer world. It takes consistent practice. Think of it like building a muscle. When you decide you are that version of yourself, you hold to it, even when life tries to convince you otherwise. Each time you waver, but then pull yourself back to your inner conviction, you strengthen it. Over time, you build a strong foundation that doesn't collapse at every sign of disapproval or delay. Then, when circumstances start mirroring your inner shift, you'll feel a jolt of recognition. This is exactly what I imagined. Maybe a promotion appears, or an unexpected financial boon, or a new friend who opens doors you didn't realize existed. Suddenly, you're not surprised by success. You anticipated it. That's the hallmark of forcing manifestation. No more stunned reaction when something good happens. You simply nod in gratitude, knowing the seeds you planted are sprouting. Here's a practical tool you can try. Before you drift off to sleep, choose one scene that captures your fulfilled desire. Let it be short, clear, and full of emotional color. Perhaps a scene of you celebrating your milestone with friends, or sitting in your new office with a sense of accomplishment. Let all your senses dwell in that scene. Hear the voices of those congratulating you. Imagine the furniture. Feel your posture in that scenario. Hold that image in your mind's eye gently as you slip into sleep. This moment is potent because your subconscious is especially receptive then. If you do this consistently, you'll wake up carrying that certainty, and the day's events will begin to match what you incubated during the night. People often ask, when will my manifestation come? The question itself can be a trap. If you're still wondering about timing, you're implying it hasn't happened. That subtle sense of waiting keeps you in a state of lack. The difference with forcing manifestation is that you don't wait. You occupy the end. You might still be physically in your old conditions, but internally, you live in the new. And eventually, the physical has to follow the spiritual blueprint you've created. Morgan also realized that it's okay to acknowledge passing doubts. She didn't fight them with anger. Instead, she noticed them like clouds drifting across the sky, and then brought her attention back to the sunny vision she'd chosen. That gentle persistence is key. Trying to wrestle doubt into submission often gives it more energy, whereas calmly returning to your inner vision starves doubt of its power. Some people find this easier if they start with smaller goals: a free cup of coffee, a random compliment, a small but delightful surprise. When those successes show up, they confirm that your consciousness does shape your experiences. With each little demonstration, your faith grows. Soon, you're unafraid to force bigger shifts, a major career leap, a total transformation in your lifestyle, or a fulfilled relationship beyond what you thought possible. Because once you master the method, size is irrelevant. A big manifestation is as natural as a small one. Now let's talk about the environment we live in. It can feel chaotic, especially in times of global uncertainty. But that's when the power of holding a firm inner vision becomes most evident. While everyone else is distracted by outer events, you turn inward and shape your desired outcome. You remain centered, a calm eye in the storm. That calm radiates to those around you, often making you a pillar in your community. You become someone who moves forward with purpose when others hesitate. Life's disruptions don't throw you off balance. They become the backdrop against which you paint your chosen reality. Morgan's journey eventually led her to see evidence everywhere that she was no longer the same person she'd been. She stopped blaming luck or fate. She recognized how each manifestation aligned with the precise state she'd taken on. Every time she chose to step into the end, the reflection shifted. And that, ultimately, is the surest sign you've grown. The moment you stop doubting the process and start expecting results. You become someone who sees each challenge as an opportunity to further refine your power. Instead of letting circumstances dictate your beliefs, you let your beliefs dictate your circumstances. I invite you, as part of your own journey, to comment on this video with one thing you're ready to start commanding into your life. State it not as a question or a wish, but as a fact. Tell us something like, "I am the prosperous owner of a thriving business," or "I am living in a fulfilling relationship," or "I am in perfect health." Whatever resonates, put it out there. There's a unique potency in declaring your reality in a space where others witness it. Remember, Morgan's story began in desperation, certain she might never break free from her desert of failed attempts. She tried standard methods, but the results were minimal because she hadn't learned to adopt that unshakable stance. Once she did, it felt like she was stepping into a new dimension, one where possibilities unfolded in near-perfect timing. She noticed the how often made no logical sense. It emerged through coincidences and chance encounters. Yet that's exactly how this works. You decide on the inside, and life orchestrates the details. She eventually realized that the elites she had heard about were simply people who had either stumbled upon or were taught this knowledge at a deep level. They weren't necessarily more deserving, just more attuned to the principle that your consciousness orchestrates your circumstances, not the other way around. Once they locked onto an idea, they rarely questioned it. They treated it like an inevitable fact, and so it became one. And here's the best part. You are no different from them. There's no exclusive club that can claim the monopoly on creation. The power rests within you as soon as you decide to wield it with conviction. If you've ever sensed that you can do more, be more, and shape your destiny, that sense is correct. All you need is the willingness to rewrite the script playing in your mind, to stand up to your old beliefs and replace them with the ones you prefer. When you do, you'll notice a peace replacing the restlessness. No more are you scanning the horizon for signs of progress, like a nervous farmer ripping up seeds to see if they've sprouted. You plant your intention, water it with conviction, and trust that it grows beneath the surface. You carry on living as though harvest is assured. Then, inevitably, the moment arrives when physical reality yields a bumper crop, reflecting your inner shift. Think back to any time in your life when you absolutely knew something was going to happen. Maybe it was passing an exam you felt totally prepared for, or a sports match you were certain you'd win. Those instances probably came to pass exactly as you anticipated. That is the energy we want you to harness and direct toward your loftiest dreams. Instead of letting that kind of certainty appear only by chance, you can cultivate it intentionally. That's the difference between dabbling in manifestation and truly forcing it into being. Once you step into that level of mastery, something else remarkable occurs. You start inspiring others. They notice your composure, your confidence in the face of uncertainty. They wonder why life seems to work out for you so often. And you might give them a knowing smile, remembering how you used to be on the other side of that fence. Now you're living proof that imagination, fueled by unwavering conviction, is the only real power behind what we experience as reality. Now, as we draw near to the close, think about the entire journey, from Morgan's initial heartbreak to her final awakening. She broke free from the notion that she was powerless and realized that life wasn't punishing her. it was simply echoing the turmoil inside her. Once she turned that key, her outer world started to rearrange, seemingly at light speed. Doors opened, people showed up, possibilities multiplied. At last, she understood. Forcing manifestation isn't about straining to move mountains. It's about assuming the end so completely that the mountains move themselves. So let me leave you with this invitation. Choose one aspect of your life where you feel stuck and decide in this very moment that you already possess the outcome you desire. Not tomorrow, not if you're lucky, but right now in the realm of imagination. Live from that assumption. Notice how it transforms your attitude, your choices, your conversations. Observe how new paths light up before you. If you found inspiration in these words, remember to subscribe and stay connected for more. But above all, carry these ideas with you into each day. Remind yourself that you are the operant power in your own story. When you remember the desert Morgan roamed and the oasis she finally reached, let it remind you that your turning point might be just a breath away. Sometimes we look for complicated formulas, but the real magic lies in your simple decision to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and sustain it. Do that, and watch how circumstances reshuffle themselves at your feet. This is your invitation to step into the ranks of those who shape reality rather than watch it from a distance. Embrace it fully, and you'll never again doubt that what you desire has no choice but to manifest. With that, I thank you for joining me. Carry this truth with you. Your imagination is the root of creation. Claim what you want, occupy it wholeheartedly within, and life will conform to that state. It has to, by its very nature. This is how you truly force your manifestation. No emptiness, no maybes, just the steady, assured knowing that you are indeed the author of your world. Now go forth and let the world bend to your chosen reality. You deserve no less. Subscribe if you haven't, and share in the comments what you're commanding into your life. Together, we'll celebrate how imagination, when held with unwavering conviction, reshapes everything. That is your birthright, your grand inheritance. Let us move ahead in that spirit, living from the end we have boldly chosen. Go then and watch the marvel that unfolds.